Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Minnesota, thousands gathered in a Minneapolis neighborhood Wednesday evening for a candlelight vigil to mourn a 37-year-old Twin Cities resident who was shot and killed by an ICE agent earlier in the day, shortly after she dropped off her 6-year-old son at school. Renee Nicole Good was a mother of 3 who lived in South Minneapolis with her partner, just blocks from where a masked ICE officer fired 3 shots at her at point-blank range. Good's mother described her as loving, forgiving, affectionate, and an amazing human being. She was killed blocks from the site of George Floyd's murder in 2020 by Minneapolis police officers, a killing that sparked protests internationally under the banner Black Lives Matter. Video of Good's killing quickly spread across the internet, sparking protests and demands for accountability. The footage shows masked ICE agents approaching a vehicle being driven by Good, screaming for her to get out of the effing car, using profanity, attempting to pull her driver's side door open. As Good backs up her car slightly, then attempts to drive past the officers, a masked agent pulls out a gun and fires 3 rounds into Good's vehicle, which then crashes into a nearby car. Another video shows the aftermath. Outraged residents, including a doctor, screaming at the agents to let them check the mortally wounded driver for a pulse while she's seen bleeding, limp, and slumped against her car's blood-soaked airbag.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
I don't care!
We understand. We got EMS coming. I get it. Just give us a second.
We have medics on scene. We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they? How can I relax? You just killed my neighbor.
Witnesses say medics responding to the shooting were forced to approach on foot after federal agents obstructed their access to the scene while pepper spraying bystanders who protested the killing. Good was ultimately brought to the Hennepin County Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead on arrival. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem accused Good of weaponizing her vehicle to commit a, quote, act of domestic terrorism. And in a social media post, President Trump falsely claimed Good had, quote, violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense, unquote. Trump went on to say, quote, it's hard to believe he's alive, but is now recovering in the hospital, unquote. Video from the scene shows the ICE agent walking away after the shooting with no signs of injuries. Minnesota officials condemn those remarks. Democratic Governor Tim Walz issued an order to prepare to mobilize the Minnesota National Guard, calling Good's killing preventable and unnecessary. This is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bull. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here.
This comes after the Trump administration ordered a surge of 2,000 ICE agents to the Twin Cities this week, after President Trump called the region's large Somali community garbage and accused state officials of failing to root out fraud in social services programs. The killing of Renee Good was at least the 9th time federal immigration officers have fired on people since September. 5 people have died in mass deportation operations since President Trump retook the White House. After headlines, will go to Minneapolis for the latest. Illinois Democratic Congressmember Robin Kelly has announced plans to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in the wake of Wednesday's fatal shooting by an ICE officer, calling her an incompetent leader and a disgrace to our democracy. Kelly's 3 articles of impeachment allege Noem has engaged in obstruction of justice, violation of public trust, and self-dealing. Kelly wrote in a statement, quote, from Chicago to Charlotte to Los Angeles to Minneapolis, Secretary Noem is violating the Constitution while ruining and ending lives and separating families. It's one thing to be incompetent and dangerous. It's impeachable to break the rule of law, she said. The Trump administration's announced plans to control sales of Venezuela's oil indefinitely, as it demands Venezuela's government cut ties with U.S. adversaries, including Cuba, China, Iran, and Russia. On Wednesday, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said the U.S. would continue to dictate policy to Venezuela's interim leaders after the abduction of President Nicolas Maduro and a bloody U.S. military raid on Caracas early Saturday morning.
The president is fully deploying his peace through strength foreign policy agenda. So we're continuing to be in close coordination with the interim authorities, and their decisions are going to continue to be dictated by the United States of America.
On Wednesday, U.S. forces seized 2 tankers linked to Venezuelan oil exports, one in the Caribbean, the other a Russian-flagged tanker in the North Atlantic that the U.S. had pursued for weeks. In response, Russia accused the U.S. of violating maritime law, calling for the release of the ship's crew. Their capture came as Vice President J.D. Vance reiterated the Trump administration would have complete control of Venezuela's oil reserves. In Caracas, interim President Delcy Rodriguez defended plans to cede control of Venezuela's oil to the United States.
Venezuela está abierta.
Venezuela is open to energy relations where all parties benefit, where economic cooperation is very well determined in commercial contracts.
On Wednesday, President Trump told the New York Times he expects the United States will be running Venezuela for years to come. Meanwhile, Venezuela's interior minister said 100 people were killed in the U.S. attack that removed President Maduro from power on Saturday. We'll have more on Venezuela later in the broadcast. President Trump praised Colombia's President Gustavo Petro after the 2 leaders held a more than hour-long phone call Wednesday. It was a stark shift of tone after Trump previously threatened to attack Colombia and called the Colombian leader a sick man involved in the cocaine trade. After Wednesday's call, Trump said it was his great honor to hold the conversation, adding he's planning to invite President Petro to the White House. Petro responded from a rally in Bogotá.
Que la paz se encuentra hablando. Y por eso...
Peace is found through dialogue, and that's why I accept President Trump's proposal to talk. We'll see what comes of it. I'll keep insisting that an alliance is possible in clean energy, because it brings peace and life and love. Colombia knows how to take advantage of peace.
President Trump announced Wednesday the U.S. will withdraw from dozens of international and United Nations entities, including the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. The move would make it difficult for a future presidential administration to rejoin the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. In a memo to senior administration officials, Trump also said the U.S. will quit participation in UN Women, which works for gender equality around the world, and the UN Population Fund, which is focused on family planning and the health of mothers and children in more than 150 countries. In Sudan, at least 13 people have been killed, including 8 children, after a drone strike hit a house in the city of El Obeid. That's according to the Sudan Doctors Network. The group says it's likely carried out by the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group. Meanwhile, several Sudanese women recounted harrowing stories of rape by the RSF to Al Jazeera. A senior doctor revealed 14 infants were raped. The UN describes the situation in Sudan as the world's worst humanitarian crisis, as the civil war between the Sudanese army and the RSF has been raging for nearly 3 years. More than 11 million people have been displaced, and over 150,000 people have been killed. Israeli forces killed an 11-year-old Palestinian girl, Hamza Hossa, in northern Gaza on Thursday, and shot another child in the Zaytun neighborhood of Gaza City. On Wednesday, Israel bombed a residential home in the Al-Tufa neighborhood east of Gaza City, killing 3 people. The strikes occurred west of the Yellow Line, which confines the Palestinian population as part of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire. Since the truce took effect on October 10th, Israel's killed more than 420 Palestinians and injured more than 1,100. This comes as Israel cleared the final hurdle to begin construction on the E1 settlement project near Jerusalem that would split the occupied West Bank in 2. The project has been under consideration for more than 2 decades, but had been put on hold due to U.S. pressure. Meanwhile, UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said Palestinians in the occupied West Bank face apartheid. It's the first time a UN human rights chief has used the term.
Whether accessing water, school, rushing to hospital, visiting family or friends, harvesting olives, every aspect of life for Palestinians in the West Bank is controlled and curtailed by Israel's discriminatory laws, policies, and practices. Israel is violating international law, requiring states to prohibit and eradicate racial segregation and apartheid.
President Trump Wednesday called for increasing U.S. military spending to $1.5 trillion in 2027, up from the 2026 military budget set at $901 billion. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump said, quote, "This will allow us to build the dream military that we've long been entitled to, and more importantly, that will keep us safe and secure regardless of foe," unquote. This comes as President Trump has threatened military action in Greenland, Iran, Mexico, Cuba, and Colombia following the U.S. attack on Venezuela. And the House Oversight Committee has secured subpoenas to seek testimony from billionaire Les Wexner and 2 executors of the estate of convicted serial sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The subpoenas come as the Justice Department has released just over 12,000 documents from more than 2 million files related to Epstein, which amounts to less than 1% of its files. That's despite a law passed by Congress ordering the DOJ to release the vast majority of files by December 19th. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed in a federal court filing Monday the DOJ's supposed efforts to protect the identities of Epstein's survivors had slowed the process. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.